Hello and welcome to Art, Creativity, and Wellbeing. This is the show where we are always working to support you in giving as much love and care for yourself and to yourself as you are accustomed to giving to others. Welcome, welcome. I am Kay Locke Culp. I am a coach, a facilitator, an author, and an artist, and a thru hiker who used to need a wheelchair. And I'm I'm glad to be bringing this one to you today. It is, it's the latest in our Days of Creation 2026 series. So once a month, the first week of the month, I am sharing the learning from the past month in relation to some reflection and journaling and experiencing that I did over 12 days in January. And I'll put the link to this game book in here if you would like to play along. Yes, even though it's July, you can still play along. You can do 6 days for the second half of the year, or 5 days for the no, six, I think, if you were to do it right away. And I apologize. I know I said that I was going to put that link into the last one, and I got about halfway through June and I was like, oh man, I forgot to do that. So I will be sure to put it in this month before the episode goes out. Whew. So it has been, I don't know about for you, but 2026 for me has just been a wild ride, with lots of invitations to growth and lots of invitations to enjoyment. And the reminder that I get to choose. Events happen and I get to choose how I respond to them and what I do or say. And today I want to focus on, there's one particular thing that I said that I wrote as we were proactively building June back on the 6th of January. I wrote that it felt delicious and joyful to choose my mindset, and that happened more than once today on the 6th of January. It's so wild looking back at these now because I'm reading about the events of that day and the thoughts of that day, and it's like, wow, that feels simultaneously like a very long time ago. And also, I'm just back in those moments when I'm reading about them, right? And I don't remember exactly what it was that had me feeling like, oh, it's time for you to choose your mindset rather than let your mindset be a product of what's coming in. Um, but that's what I wrote, and that's what I'd like to focus on because the well-being has come with that in the last month. Um, there's been trying to think what I can really talk about and what I can't. So, um, well, maybe how I'll say it is I'm sure you know how it feels to watch loved ones really struggle and to watch them feel so anxious, to watch things happen to them. Um, that there was a pretty big thing that happened to a family member this past month. Um, he's okay, uh, but there was a lot of, put it this way, he's okay, but the car was totaled. And um, yeah, that's just one thing, there's been a lot going on. And I've been coming through it all or supporting or navigating it for myself, even really by remembering with gentleness that I get to choose my mindset. And a really useful question that actually came up because I was supporting a coaching client on a major event in their life, um, that it at first it had me questioning, like, am I am I a good coach? Am I a good enough coach? That was really, I remember that being in my head, like, because I'm not a therapist. I'm not, you know, um, someone who can support other than helping someone really understand their own wishes and their own developing a trust with themselves and coming from that trust as they make their choices is really that turns out to be what I'm really good at. And for a while, um, after a sort of precipitating event in a client's life, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to help. Like it didn't feel like enough somehow. And that is where this question came up. And it's been so helpful every day ever since. The question is, what would help me return to center after witnessing all of this? And I'm giving it to you today because it's been so helpful for me. And I would be, I think, so curious, how it might be helpful for you. Because really, the way I've been thinking about it is that's kind of all we got. We think that um, we think that we have so much more control with our thinking. Like if we can just, you know, persuade this person, if we can just make it not rain today, if we could just, be sure about these events and circumstances that we want to be the way that we want to be, there comes a point where we realize we don't have control over any of that. Um, and it can feel at that point the invitation becomes, how do I put this down? Like, how do I not get, pulled into the well with someone who's fallen down into a well? And then we're both in a well and there's no one at the top to go get help. Right? Um, so being able to ask that question for me, I probably ask it 2 or 3 times a day because I keep witnessing things, whether they're in my own mind or in my body or in around me events or loved ones or things going on for them. And uh, I know when I say in my body, what I notice and have noticed since I've been living with this tendon condition, um, that had me needing a wheelchair in 2011, 2012, that um, made it so that I didn't have any use of my hands basically in 2014, 2015. Even now, I've got about half the use of a typical person's hands on a good day. And there have been in the last couple of weeks, there have been some very not good days. And I'm noticing it's like I come out of that, I sort of swim to the edge and catch my breath and notice, oh, and remember, oh, yeah, when things happen to people I love, or when I'm going through something, or when we are collectively are going through something, this is a symptom that my hands hurt, that they get really super stressed out, and not just my hands, but other parts of my body, because tendons are everywhere in our body. So that's the connective tissue, and it stress really causes I think the basic mechanism, my understanding of it is that it's inflammation. But what that does for my tendons is it causes them to become, um, it'll go very quickly to scarring and uh, beyond beyond that. So then it takes a lot of time to heal. And I with this at least inner awareness, I can be taking the steps that have my hands not hurting anymore, particularly my hands, because my hands have been what has been hurting. And if I look at my behavior, a lot of it has come down to wanting to research things. Any sort of tapping, scrolling, typing on a computer or on a screen, tapping like that is just terrible for my hands. It's like kryptonite for my body. And the way out is to not do it. So, or to not do it as much. I mean, I very rarely spend more than, a very short amount of time using my hands in that way each day because it's just really hard on my hands regularly, but I notice it very much when in times of stress. What happens is that my body just reacts in this way because it's the mechanisms inside of it are feeling pain, are feeling inflamed, are feeling not okay. And they are messages that I've gotten much, much better at listening to. So that's like asking that question has become a really good way to sort of bring me back to myself and remember what I'm responsible for and what I'm not. It's been really helpful for forgiving myself or giving grace for others and myself about what's happening in our lives because we wish we had control over a lot more than we actually have control over. I'll put it that way. So that's one really important part of this is choosing the mindset and coming back to that question for me has been a very useful way to do that. Um, and then the other parts of this, I thought it was really interesting. The episode that came out this month with Mina Bassine about pleasure. She's a pleasure activist. She's a violist. She plays the viola, um, and really giving herself permission to experience pleasure in her words. That's really her phrasing was the road back to wellness for her. And you all loved that episode. That like we get a good amount of downloads on this show. I love seeing um, what's happening. Even on summer vacation, people are listening, and um, you are listening, and that really means a lot. That that day that Mina Bassine's episode came out, I think it was about four times the downloads of a regular Tuesday download day, which is like, wow, that's a lot. So it seems like, and I've heard from people too. I've heard from people who really, really enjoyed it. And I did too. Listening back, I really loved that episode as a listener and got a lot out of it. So I the other thing that I wrote down to talk about was like part of choosing the mindset is giving ourselves permission to enjoy and experience pleasure. Um, there's a book that I really love. It's called Love Money, Money Loves You. And they talk about it's narrated by money. It's narrated by the energy of money, which I love books that have this, I don't know, something like that that's sort of a magical realism, different perspective. I'm fascinated with it. It's almost as if money was writing us a really, really long letter with a lot of ideas and thoughts. Um, that the book has resonated with me a lot anyway. And more than once in there, they say things like, money will say things like, "What did worrying ever really get you anyway?" Like they continually say, we see that there's been a lot of suffering and a lot of worrying, and it didn't have to be like that, but this is where we are now. And having a better relationship with money, a big, huge part of that is to not worry about money, but instead to enjoy your life and feel relaxed. And they talk about being simple and clear um, because because simplicity in our thinking um, is a lot more. We're just a lot more prone to receiving money and other resources and other good things. Um, when we are in enjoyment and not in worry, like we can block good things from coming to us with our worry and so with our anxiety and just the phrase, what did worrying ever get you? Like what did worrying ever do for you? Because the thing is, in letting go of that, the book for now, um, the things that we worry about may never happen. Um, and it's a setting that keeps us feeling small and frightened. Um, and we don't we don't show up. for ourselves or others best when we feel small and frightened. Um, but it's been very interesting to put down a lot. I won't say with perfection, because what is perfection? But it's been very interesting to put down and see myself being able to, not with energy, like not pushing it away, because all that does is bring it right. Like now I'm focusing on it to try and push on it, right? But to just say, okay, this is an energy in my environment right now. This is a thought that's in the world, or at least in my head. And I can choose to engage with it or not. And so it's had me reflecting on like what else is there to engage with. And and there's always something, yes, there are these challenging things in our thinking, in our environments, but there's always something good to focus on when we look for it. Um, whether it's I mean, like just really simple pleasures like a sip of a really good cup of coffee or tea, um, a, hearing a bird or seeing a flower, um, drawing a flower. Like I've had a practice for at least 6 months now of every morning. I was starting to feel really burned out and concerned that like I had lost my creative muse in the wintertime. And what I started to do was to make at least one small drawing a day, like at least to do one small thing a day. And that has evolved into this really lovely practice of just a couple of minutes in the morning sitting with a journal, a lined journal, and just making a little ink drawing, very often of flowers. I love being able to, I love glass. I love drawing glass or painting glass. So I'll paint part of the vase. I'll paint one part of a flower. I'll paint the whole thing, some days, just in a very small way in a corner of my journal for that day. And it's kind of it's helped me. It's just a tiny little practice that takes no time at all. That has helped me return to center after witnessing all of whatever it was that I had been witnessing. Sometimes I would wake up in the morning feeling anxious and um right, what did worrying ever do for me? So for me, drawing is one of the things. There's a range of things that take me out of that mode and bring me back into present mode. And I noticed that I got a lot of those moments in when I was taking a vacation to 1987, which I shared about a couple episodes ago. Just there were no distractions. Well, not that there were no distractions, but there were far fewer distractions in my personal life and evenings, for example, than I have felt in years because I've just sort of slowly been drawn into my phone more and more, even with the hand constraints I still have. Um, and so part of putting down, well, I won't even, putting down feels like it has too much energy. Part of just releasing, allowing these thoughts to be in the atmosphere and saying, okay, now it's time for some painting. Now it's time for a walk. Now it's time for, um, sometimes I'll go into the kitchen and just cook, just make something. Um, those are the things that just bring some ease and help the joy come forward, or at least I would say the pleasure, the enjoyment come forward. And it also happens to be very centering. So there's a circularity about it that I've been noticing. And I think it's interesting how this was all predicted on the 6th of January when I wrote about and was apparently experiencing a lot of tugs on my thinking, into anxiety. And what I did about it was I um, remembered that I choose where my focus goes. And so I chose things that felt good to focus on. And if it all feels like too damn much, I mean, I feel that, my friend, because sometimes it isn't about, you know, doing. It's more about experiencing. And so if you're asking yourself that question, what would help me return to center after witnessing all of this, whatever it is, whether it's 5 minutes or a week since you'd asked that question, this gives and I would love to invite you to sometimes it's about sitting down with, a cup of tea or lying on the couch and looking at the clouds. Um, I would say it is never about um, getting pulled into a distraction. Um, it's about choosing with awareness your next step. Um, Today, for example, my watchword is breathe because I wanted to remember and bring attention to the fact that, like, just taking a breath is a really centering and helpful thing for me. So sometimes it's just that simple. It doesn't have to be about like uh, having a massive set of steps that you've got to try to live into. Instead, it can be, what would help me be at peace right now? What would feel like ease? And when we hear something, to really listen to it. So the last bit of this that I'll share is that pretty recently, um, a loved one has had something happen at work that felt embarrassing, that felt you know uh, not ideal, and it was precipitated by a a coworker insulting them, calling them out, telling them what a lousy job they were doing, and um, and it's gotten me thinking about, well, for example, it's gotten me thinking about being told when I was a freshman in college in the School of Fine Arts at my university by I was in class. This has come up many times on this show. My figure drawing class, and the professor just lost his patience with me, and he asked me, why are you here? You are not an artist. You should give this up. And that was not what I've come to realize is that was not about me. Like that was a human being having a very bad day for himself because the teacher was a guy. And but what I did was I took it. I picked up that stick and I carried it for 30 years. That's a really long time to carry somebody else's opinion of us. And I put it down about 5 years ago now. And I thought to myself, who gets to say if I'm an artist? And I remember that I started making tiny little, it's funny because what am I doing now with these little ink drawings? But I started by making small pencil drawings of things that were interesting to me. I learned a methodology called drawing on the right side of the brain is the book and the work. I used the workbook. The textbook was too dense for me, but the workbook was perfect. Um, to come back to myself, to give myself permission if I wanted to be an artist, to be an artist. And this is what I shared with this loved one last night was that happened to me 30 years ago and I carried it for a long, long time. But I have I don't, this is news that I think I'm excited to share with you all too. Coming up in October, I will be the featured artist in a solo exhibition that's a month long up here in a nearby town where I live in the library of this nearby town. And the me of 30 years ago could never have predicted that. Um, so who gets to say about us and what we want for ourselves. And it really does feel like it comes back to identity. Um, and other people from their unhappy places, like there's this expression that I've been thinking about a lot lately. Again, hurt people hurt people. If someone is hurting, um, that's when they're likeliest to lash out and hurt somebody else. And so that art teacher was hurting. And what I said to this loved one is, you know, we we don't have to let somebody else's opinion change our identity. And it's funny, that's where I feel like I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it there for us too, and for you listening. We returning to my place of center after witnessing all of this, whatever this is, means remembering who I am and who I would like to be. And I wonder if it's the same for you. And I'm wishing you well today. Um, yeah, I hope it's a really good day for you. And I'm sending you lots of love. Um, I'll be back next week with another episode. And until then, I hope things are good for you. And yeah, lots of love. We'll talk soon. Bye bye. Thanks for being here.